Evening and welcome to this evening's webinar. I'm hoping you can hear me clearly and the technology is working. I'm just going to do some administration of it first, a bit of housekeeping, and just to make sure people are comfortable with the kind of technology, as it were, and you know how to ask a question if you want to, and also to make sure you can actually hear me. Now, on the right-hand side of your screen, of your window, you should see a chat box, and if you find that, you can type something in the chat box. You can choose to make it public, and which everyone who is kind of logged in to see the webinar can see it, or you can choose it to make it just for me, which is admin, which is just me, if you want to make it private. If you've found that chat box, and someone has already, just type hi or something in there. That'd be great, just so I know someone is out there. And I think I can see people out there, but to make sure people can hear me okay. So if you found the chat box, just type hi or hello just to make sure you can hear me. You can choose to make it public or post it just to me as admin. If you want to make it private, that's fine, because that's what we're going to use for questions as we go along. So I'm just going to pause a minute to hopefully people have found that chat box and people can type a quick message saying hi, just so I know you can all hear. Great, they're all coming in, so people can hear. Fantastic. Hello from Switzerland. It's great. We've got people from all over the place. I should say that. I should say, yeah, to say hi and say where you're from to see kind of how many countries we've got covered this evening. So great. Thankfully, it seems the technology is working. And if any time during this evening you seem to drop off or anything else, don't worry. It is being recorded, and we will send out the recording to everyone who's registered. So yeah, don't worry about missing anything if you do have technology problems and things drop off. So welcome to this evening's webinar. It was kind of titled "How to Get Off the Emotional Roller Coaster," and I've created the subtitle as I was kind of preparing for it. 5 things I wish I knew on our journey. And hopefully you're going to find it kind of very interesting. And it's brought to you by Infertility Network UK and myself, Russell Davis, from the Fertile Mind. But before I introduce myself in a bit more detail and we get launched in, oh great, New Zealand's represented, brilliant. Anyone further than UK than New Zealand? I suppose you can get much further than beautiful New Zealand. So it's great, people can hear. Excellent. So if you want to ask a question at any point, please type it into that chat box, and I say if you make it a public comment, other people can see it, but feel free to make it private if you want, just by posting it to admin, and that's me, and only I can see it. And as I share questions, I won't be giving names. It's just I won't know who wants to be anonymous, who wasn't, so I'm assuming everyone can be anonymous. So when it comes to the questions, that'd be great. Feel free to ask a question at any point. I will pause at some point maybe to prompt questions, but as you think of them, just type them and I'll come back to them. So I shall pause and take the questions at some point if I'm in flow, so don't worry about interrupting me. You won't be. I will just carry on and pause and take the questions, answer the questions when appropriate. If it's your first webinar, welcome to the world of webinars, and hopefully it's not as daunting as it sounds, and hopefully you're going to find it very, very useful. It's a bit about Infertility Network UK, who are the main kind of providing this kind of webinar. Infertility Network UK, they're a patient support charity in the UK. Someone said, I'm still seeing page 2 of 11 on my screen. It will catch up when I move slides. You'll move to page 3 very briefly. So you should be seeing quite soon page 3 of 11 and seeing the Infertility Network UK logo and website. It's a question coming about what they should be seeing. So yeah, hopefully you can see that page 3 now. So Infertility Network UK, they're a patient support charity here in the UK, and they provide help, support and information for people who are struggling to conceive. And with kind of 1 in 6 couples facing some kind of fertility struggle, that's a lot of people potentially they can be helping. IN UK offer a variety of free patient services, whether it's information via their website or someone to talk to. They have about 200 trained helpline volunteers at the end of the phone if someone wants to chat, as well as a network of regional staff and a support line nurse as well. And IN UK, and I really am a big fan of IN UK, and I just very sad we weren't aware of them on our journey, because it can be a very lonely journey. And I completely agree with their kind of one of their kind of objectives is that no one should face the heartache of struggling to conceive alone, and they would like to be with people with them on every step of their journey. Another thing I love about Infertility Network UK is that they help promote the awareness of fertility and infertility. Obviously, it's a subject often not really discussed amongst people, and a lot of people aren't aware of how widespread infertility can be. And this year they're launching their second National Fertility Awareness Week. I know Resolve in America are quite big at promoting issues of infertility, and they have an awareness week. So it's great to see in the UK we're having a second National Fertility Awareness Week coming up in October, the 27th to November the 2nd. You can find more details about Infertility Network UK and how they can support you, and about the Awareness Week on their website. You can see their website there. So that's a little bit about Infertility Network UK. A little bit about me, so you know the person behind the voice. My name's Russell Davis, and I'm kind of the founder of the Fertile Mind fertility coaching and hypnosis programs. I have personal experience of fertility. I call it double fertility. We had female fertility and then male fertility. My wife and I, she was diagnosed with PCOS, it was highly likely, or pretty much knew we wouldn't be able to have children. And then my wife went through a journey of naturally healthy, never be to get fertility back. After a year of stress and changing her lifestyle and nutrition and all sorts of things, she actually got her full things, including and then studying on the I had my first disaster. That was the point I told myself about my mouth, my eyes. That was great. Yeah, real and problem. See what we can do. Majority of it are still problems with sound. Okay, hopefully that's better. Everything hasn't gone. I went very quiet as I tried to sort out the sound problems. I'm hoping that is clearer. Just by trying to speak loud as well. Let me know if that's a clearer sound for you as I speak. I don't want to go on too far without knowing that that's okay. So hopefully that's okay. The recording should be very good sound. So if there is a problem, the recording should be fine. So I shall carry on, and hopefully that sound is clearer. So my wife and I had a 10-year journey of infertility, And along that journey, I kind of recognized I had emotions. I didn't realize I had emotions, and it was a whole my journey of kind of waking up and recognizing emotions don't kill you and they're okay. And I went on a personal journey of understanding what emotions are and basically engaging more with life at an emotional level. Long and short of it, we did go on to conceive naturally just before starting ICSI, because we were told my test results were so bad. ICSI was our only option, but we did go on to conceive naturally. And I went on to change career because I realised in the midst of this journey, I believed I had all sorts of beliefs which I'll come on to. One of them was I didn't believe I deserved good things. I was in a job I didn't enjoy. So I changed career. I retrained as a therapist, a cognitive hypnotherapist, and naturally didn't plan to, but naturally started specialising in fertility, partly because our gynecologist we were working with over many years started referring clients to me, and I suddenly realised, having the personal experience, I had something I could bring to this as well as the clinical experience, and it's just for me, it's a magical space to work in to help people on their journey. So that's a little bit about me and the voice behind me. I'm also, just to let you know something about me, I'm a big fan of barefoot running. I wear funny shoes, barefoot shoes when I go running. I'm a big Mac fan, and I love everything about the mind. Fascinated by the mind and how it affects us. And when I work with clients on fertility, and there's two main areas I kind of work with. One is understanding how the mind and body are one system, and our unconscious mind controls all our bodily functions. And actually we can harness that. We can guide our unconscious mind to help our body do what we want it to do. Even from kind of minor things like in a pulled muscle from sports, I can guide that to healing far quicker and easier than it would have done on its own, just by using visualizations and hypnosis. So we have access to our unconscious mind through visualizations, hypnosis, and I have hypnosis programs I make available to people to help utilize that mind-body link. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, which I'm going to major on, and we can do a whole webinar on that, and maybe we'll do. At the end, I'll talk about, I'd love to have some feedback on this webinar, because we'd love to do some more if we think people are finding these useful. Another aspect of the way I help people is find more peace of mind on their journey. We call it a roller coaster, and it really is a roller coaster of emotions. And I can look back and see how our mind played so much in our journey. You know, if I knew what I knew now, I really am convinced it would not have been a 10-year journey by any means. And that's why I want to share some of the things this evening about some of the things I wish I knew about how our mind works, and how we can get off this emotional roller coaster without giving up the journey. And I talk to clients a lot about finding a place of peace without giving up. And a lot of people don't believe that place exists. And my wife started going through a grieving process when we got my test results. We thought it was game over. And she didn't want to go there. She didn't want to go through that process because she didn't want to be the person that comes out the other side. She didn't want to be the person who's giving up the hope of having children. What she found was actually there is a place where you can have peace and acceptance of where you are today without giving up the journey. It means you can continue the journey with a sense of peace of mind. And then I went on my journey and found that place as well. So the major part of my work is helping people, coach them basically into understanding what their mind is doing, the stories I'm telling themselves, and how to let go of those and find this kind of place of peace without giving up. So that gives a bit of background to me and my work, and let's launch into some of the 5 things I wish I knew on our journey. There's been some questions coming already. I was going to check, see what they are, see if I can answer any now. So one question is, does stress play a role in failed IVF? I'm finding the emotional roller coaster hard to deal with at times. 4 years trying to conceive and nothing. And absolutely yes, stress does play a role in conception, whether it's through IVF or natural conception, because fertility and reproduction requires a very delicate balance of hormones for it to work. And the pituitary gland in your brain controls the levels of your fertility hormones, like LH and FSH, as well as the stress hormones. So the stress hormones floating around your body will be affecting the balance of other hormones. So absolutely, and there's plenty of studies that demonstrate how stress can impact fertility, and particularly IVF. And that if you can stay relaxed just even through the embryo transfer procedure, there's one study that shows that even using hypnosis during that procedure can double success rate, and that's why I always provide clients a track to listen to, a hypnosis track to take into the treatment and listen to during that treatment. So yes, absolutely, stress does play a role in fertility. There is one study actually by Cardiff University that says stress doesn't impact fertility, but Harvard University has actually picked a lot of holes in the mathematical modelling and statistical analysis of that study, because that study was a study of studies rather than a study with real people. So the vast majority of studies in this area do demonstrate how stress does impact and can impact fertility. So moving on to the first area. The first thing I wish is we live in experience of our thinking. Now, we call it an emotional roller coaster because there's ups and downs and there's twists and turns. 1 minute we've a sense of hope and positivity. The next minute we find that we're at the rock bottom. And I really kind of, one memory for me stands out, and I'm never going to forget it. I was feeling okay on our journey. I couldn't tell you exactly how many years this was into our journey, but I was thinking I was doing okay with it. I'm hanging in there. I'm doing okay with it. And with one of my best friends, they had children, and he's telling me a story about his son was saying, "Daddy, Daddy, tell me that story again." And in that moment, it suddenly struck me, I may never have someone call me Daddy. And in that moment, I just felt rock bottom. I just kind of felt a sense of grief and pain and despair in that moment. Just in that moment, gone from feeling okay to sudden grief and despair. I couldn't understand what had happened in that moment. And we go through life and we see someone pregnant, or someone tells us they're pregnant, and we think it's those circumstances that's affecting how we feel. A lot of people say, "Oh, my job is very stressful," but actually, nothing has the power to make us feel stressed. Nothing has the power to actually make us feel anything. It's our thinking about circumstances that creates our experience. We live in the experience of our thinking, which is why if people are, they say they're in a very stressful job, that's why some days feel worse than others. Some days it feels manageable. It's still the same job. Even on our kind of fertility roller coaster, some days feel okay more than others. Our circumstances haven't changed. It's our thinking about it creates the experience. And often we're not aware what our thinking is telling us. It's like hidden thinking going on the back of our mind. Now, what I want you to do as you listen tonight is not listen through thinking. I want you to listen for feeling, because I'm starting to talk about almost the psychology of the mind, how our mind works. And it's beyond what our human brain can comprehend. It's not intellectual understanding that will enable us to see this. It's a feeling within that lets us know. So I even encourage you to not make notes if you're thinking about making notes, but just to listen and have an experience while you listen. Listen for feeling as you do this. And the first time I came across this concept of listen with feeling, I was in a workshop, in fact a 2-day workshop, and I was really looking forward to it. In fact, I was sitting on like the front row or something with my pad and pen ready to see all the great stuff I'm going to take away from this time. And then the workshop leader encouraged us to put our pads and pens down and just get a sense of what we get from it. Just get a sense of the experience we come from it. And just let's be open to insights. Because it's better to have one insight that makes a difference to your life than 500 written notes that we just don't really take in beyond thinking about it, and then they get filed away and we don't refer back to them. So as you listen, just listen for feeling, because our feeling is our better guidance mechanism to life. Our thinking basically can get in the way from really helping us be in tune with our instinct and our intuition. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. So it's being aware that whatever situation we experience, the feelings we have are not caused by our circumstances. The feelings we have about something is our thinking about it. If you think about your partner, sometimes you feel very cross or angry with them. That's fine, we always do that. But it's not who they are. It's not the fact you're married. It's not even what they've done. It's what you think about what they've done that is creating that experience. It's the story you're telling yourself around it that is creating that experience. And often we try and control things. Often our thinking tells us if we change things, if we can do this, then our experience will be better. But it's looking in the wrong place. Our thinking creates our experience, not circumstances. So trying to control circumstances, it's trying to control the roller coaster. You can't control the roller coaster. If you try and control it, you're actually going to start to fight against it. It's about trusting it's actually okay to be on that roller coaster, and I'm going to come back to that in a bit more detail. That's one of the other points. So the first thing is to recognize that it's our thinking creates our experience, and our feelings are like a barometer of the quality of our thinking. When I feel stressed about things, it's not my workload, it's not what's on my to-do list. It's what I'm thinking about it. I'm telling myself a story that if I don't get all this done, this might happen, or that might happen, or that won't happen. So it's the thinking that goes around the circumstances creates the experience rather than the situation itself. And when we begin to see this and see what actually thinking is, and I'm going to explain that in more detail, we can begin to let go of that thinking and have a different experience. We begin to recognize we're not a ball in a pinball machine. It's not the circumstances causing our experience. It's the thinking about it. And we have more control over our thinking than we think, which enables us to have a different experience. So it's the first thing is we live in the experience of our thinking. Before I move on, I'm going to check the other questions. Someone's asked, where do you ask questions? On the right-hand side of your screen, you should have a chat box, a chat kind of tab, and in there is a box. You can type the questions, either make them public or private to me, and I'll receive them through there. So that's how you ask questions. And one question's come in, I have come to the end of my journey with no luck and I feel numb now. I find it really hard to talk about babies or be around pregnant women. Is that normal? Well, that kind of ties onto what I was saying, and I think you're going to enjoy the rest of what I've got to say because I think that will really help you. But you're finding it hard because you're telling yourself something about that which is making it hard. It's not the fact that you come to the end of your journey that's creating that experience of being numb. It's the thinking around it, and maybe you're telling yourself that you're never truly going to be happy because you can't have children, or you're going to be missing out on something. Whatever it is, the story around that, that's creating your experience, not the circumstance itself. And the thing about thinking is, it's not about the here and now. And I'm going to move on to the very next point. That leads me very nicely into the very next point. The thing is about thinking is, it goes into the past and projects into the future. Our thinking takes us away from the here and now. And one thing is, we can't predict the future. We can't predict the future. And that sounds obvious when you think about it. But our thinking tries to do that without us being aware of it. If we're feeling stressed about something, if we go back to me and my kind of feeling stressed about my to-do list, I'm predicting or second guessing what may or may not happen in the future, whether I get those things done or not. My thinking is trying to second guess or predict the outcomes, predict the future. But nothing can predict the future. Our thinking tells us a story what may or may not happen, or how we're going to feel, or what's going to happen as a result of X, Y, or Z. And it's trusting that that's just a thought, that's just a story. It's not truth, because nothing can predict the future. And if you think you can predict the future, I'd love to know the lottery results for Saturday. But nothing can predict the future. When we get caught up into future thinking, that's what brings stress and anxiety. You can't be psychologically stressed or anxious if you're purely in the present moment. Because when we're in the present moment, it comes with a sense of well-being and I'm okay. We let go of the stories in our head, but what will be or may not be. And we come back to the here and now, and we come back into our instinct, our intuition. We come back to a sense of kind of what I call innate well-being that we're born with. And I'm going to come on to that in more detail, the fact that when we come back to now, that's where we find peace of mind. One question's coming, what can one do to learn how to feel? Well, I found it was my thinking again. I spent so much time in my thinking trying to control circumstances. I really felt that my well-being was dependent on having children or being married or having this type of job or being that. And I was constantly looking for that sense of being okay. And my thinking, and all thinking, not just me, our thinking looks externally for a sense of being okay. And two things are going on. One is that I was incessantly, obsessively trying to find the answer to life and thinking about it and working really hard to be happy. So I had a very, very busy mind. And that just always numbed me. I was scared of feeling. I had some kind of difficult things happen to me growing up. And I always said, oh, they haven't affected me. But what it was, I realized I was filling my mind with thought and distraction to numb the feeling. Because I thought if I felt these feelings, they'd be out of control, too painful, too difficult. So most subconsciously, I had this bin full of feelings. I put the lid on it and a big brick on the top of the lid and don't go there. So as a consequence, I wasn't even aware of my feelings. I wasn't able to communicate my feelings. I wasn't even tuned to them or aware of them. Now, we all have feelings. We'd be dead if we didn't have feelings. But often we're not aware of them because our thinking tells us don't go there. You're happy if you don't go there. But actually, it's not true. And thinking and feelings don't kill us. So for me, what helped for me was to start to recognize, okay, I do have feelings, but I'm not acknowledging them. I'm racing through life, through the day, through the moment, so distracted with such a busy mind, I wasn't aware of my feelings. So this maybe sound a bit silly, but what really helped me was every couple of hours I stopped and just thought, okay, what have I done over the last couple of hours? How has my day been over the last couple of hours? And how I felt about it? Because things would happen to me, and I'd get really upset or frustrated, but then they're soon forgotten about. I get caught back into my thinking. I could go back and say, oh yeah, that happened. And I felt really frustrated by that. And I was, yeah, I did have that feeling of frustration. And what's funny was when I got home and my wife asked me how my day was, it was always okay. It was like nothing really to share because it was just kind of flatlined. It was okay. Once I could be more in tune with the ups and downs of my day, not to let them bother me, just be aware that they were there, I could share a more emotional level. Say, yeah, this happened. I felt really angry about it because of this. And that was enable me to share more of myself at an emotional level, be more, I guess, vulnerable, more open to me. And that helped actually kind of our relationship. So that's for me helped me start to be aware of my emotions. And other things, I started writing things down. And as I write things down, as I wrote down what I felt about something, more of my emotions came to the surface. So that was my kind of exploration about how I could be more in tune with my emotions, and hopefully that's kind of answered your question. So we can't predict the future. Our thinking tries to do that inadvertently, trying to control circumstances, thinking our well-being is dependent on X or Y. Our thinking tells us that. Our thinking tells us I'm okay if, or I'm okay when. But that's not actually true. Our well-being comes from within us. We don't have to go looking for controlling things in the future for a sense of well-being. And we don't know what's going to happen. You can't predict what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, let alone the next month or 2 months. So trusting that you can't predict the future and helps you be more in the present moment. Yeah, and that brings you back to the present moment. And how to be in the present moment? Well, hopefully by the end of this evening you'll be more aware how to be in the present moment. Because one of the things is we do move away from the present moment through our thinking. When we think about things, analyze things, trying to find answers to things, we automatically, without us knowing, move away from the present moment. just without us being aware of it. That's what thinking does. Thinking is never about the present moment. Now, the next thing I want to share is we have the possibility to see things at different levels of consciousness, different levels of thought. Because if we get so caught up into our thinking, really low-level thinking, really negative low-level thinking, all comes with despair and hopelessness, we can see that situation from that place and really feel how it feels to have those feelings and that thinking. And we begin to see, we don't see any other possibility. We think that's the truth of the situation. But the truth is, we do have the possibility to see that circumstance, see that situation at different levels of consciousness, different levels of thinking. We have a possibility to have different thinking about that situation, because thinking changes all the time. It's like seeing a situation through different tubes. Imagine these long tubes that wrapping paper come in, all stacked up. And looking at the situation from the bottom tube, you get one view of it, one experience of it. But you have the possibility to see things at different levels. Thinking changes. No thinking lasts forever. No feelings last forever. You can't hold on to a feeling forever. Even if you wanted to, if you're really angry with your partner, and in that moment you're so angry, you just want to hold on to that anger, it's impossible to hold on to any feeling, because a thought creates the feeling, and thoughts just come and go. We have no control over them. Sometimes they do last for a while. It's like being in a storm. But even storm clouds are moving. And thoughts are like clouds passing on a breeze if we let them. For example, we all have crazy thoughts. If I'm in a queue and in a hurry and think, well, I must have pushed that person out of the way, I'd never do it. I met a psychiatrist recently saying that sometimes he could be at a zebra crossing. I think, well, I must have put my foot on the accelerator right now as people cross. He would never do it. We all have crazy thoughts, if you're honest. But those are forgotten about as quickly as they come in. That's the natural flow of a thought, and the experience goes with it. But when we're in the low-level thinking, we start to think there's no other option. This is it. This is reality. It's never going to change. But even in the midst of those low-level thinking, you have moments when you feel okay. And that's because your thinking is going up and down. Your levels of consciousness is going up and down. So it's remembering, even in the midst of the low points, we had the possibility to see things at different levels of consciousness. And when we're in the high levels of consciousness, that's when we're more in the present moment. That's when we let go of the stories in our head. We don't believe the thinking, and we begin to be more aware of our instinct and our intuition. We come back to the present moment. So we do have the possibility to see things at all levels of consciousness. So being aware, even in the low points, in the low despair and grief and anger, that's not going to last. That will pass as your thinking, as your perception of the situation changes. Our thinking creates perceptions. We live life through perceptions, not reality. It's our perception of situations creates our experience, and that's our thinking. And thinking is not truth. Thinking is not real. It's just a story we're carrying. And they're stories that actually come from the past. They're not about the present moment. And when we let go of that, we can raise our consciousness and see the situation in a different experience, and have a different experience of it, and have a sense of I'm okay, or a sense of hope. So that's the third thing I want to share, that we do have the possibility to see things at different levels of consciousness. The fourth point, the fourth thing I wish I knew, is we are surrounded by people in their thinking. And it's amazing when I talk to clients, and I can see it on our journey, people often say the most inappropriate things, as well as people not really being aware of what to say or how to support. And that's why it can be such a lonely journey. It's why I'm a big fan of Infertility Network UK. I love to support them in any way I can, because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to change the face of fertility support, because I get really frustrated and angry about some of the lack of support that people get on their journey. And I really firmly believe that too many people go through treatment unnecessarily, and the success rate of treatment is unnecessarily low, because the holistic, the emotional side, the mental side is not catered for. And it's recognizing it can be a really lonely journey. And people do say the most inappropriate things. And it's partly because they just don't understand. And in a way, will they really understand unless they've been through it? I don't know. But trusting that's just their thinking. It's just the stuff in their head, their story, their fears. It's their stuff, their thinking. It's not truth. You don't have to take it on board. It's not about you. But the thing is, when someone shares something from their thinking, if we hear it in our thinking, we make it about us. We take it personally, or we really take it within us, and we own it. And that's what we do. We hear things from our thinking. And it's about trusting when someone says something, it's not really them, it's just their thinking. They're doing the best they can with the resources and the information they have available. And it's not owning it. Don't have to own it. It's not yours, it's theirs. And what's interesting is when you get to become pregnant, as soon as you tell people you're pregnant, you hear everyone's horror stories around childbirth. How appropriate, how necessary is that? It's just their stuff. They feel the need to share it in some way for whatever reason. It's their thinking, their stories, their fears. And you don't have to take it on board. You don't have to own it because it's not truth. The only thing that is truth is your instinct, your intuition. So just be aware that when people say things, they're just coming from their thinking. Number 5, and I want to spend more time on this one because this is, for me, the biggest one. And whatever happens, you will be okay. Whatever happens, you will be okay. And that sounds quite hard to hear at times because your thinking tells you otherwise. And let me tell you a little story about where we come from. When we come into this world, we come from a formless place. We come from outside of this physical realm. And we come into this world as a baby. And when was the last time you looked at a baby and thought there's something wrong with them or something missing? They're perfect. They're pure. And we have that complete sense of innate well-being within us when we're born. And if you look at little children, they don't get caught into their thinking. They don't worry about tomorrow or get hung up about yesterday. They don't worry what people think about them. They're just in the moment. Even if they have a spat with another child, it's soon quickly forgotten about and they go back to doing what they're doing. They're just living in the moment, a sense of I'm okay. What happens is, as we get older, we start to get caught into thinking our well-being is dependent on external things. Whether it's parents' expectations, teachers' expectations, what people think about us. And we start going looking externally for a sense of okay. And that's when we get caught into our thinking. Because that's what happens. We go through things as a child and our emotional intelligence is not fully formed. And we think about it, what we need to survive and cope that situation. But sometimes that thinking becomes a habit. And we go looking for that sense of well-being externally. But we're looking in the wrong place. Our sense of well-being is within us. People go to India looking for inner peace. They're going in the wrong place, going in the wrong direction. It's within us. And when we begin to recognize we're more than who we think we are, we have this innate well-being within us all the time. You have it within you now. I can speak to that part of you that is aware of that innate well-being within you now. It's not dependent on anything. We get caught into believing these stories about life that I'm okay if X, Y, or Z, or I'm okay when A, B, or C. And normally those stories are not even about our fertility. They're stories that we pick up before we get into our fertility journey. And we call fertility a roller coaster. But life's a roller coaster. Life's a contact sport. Stuff happens. Yes, I believe fertility journey can be kind of exaggerated roller coaster with much big dips and troughs and everything else. But life is a roller coaster. And when we think our well-being is dependent on external things, we start to try and control those things. Try to control future outcomes. Control what people think about us. And it's like controlling a roller coaster. It's like resisting every twist, every turn, every peak, every trough. Try to get it the other way. And that just leads to being very uncomfortable. But when we begin to recognize our sense of well-being is not dependent on anything or anyone, it's within us. We can just go with the roller coaster. We can relax into it, and you begin to enjoy it more. Begin to recognize your well-being is not dependent on anything. Doesn't mean you don't want to have a baby. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is your well-being is not dependent on having a baby. And that's what you're thinking. And someone just said they feel calm about already just by listening to this. And that's what happens. As you begin to hear about the truth about how the mind works, your mind begins to slow down. That's why I say listen with feeling. As you listen with feeling, your mind begins to naturally slow down, because that's our natural default setting. Peace of mind is our natural default setting. We work so hard to try and be okay. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. We try to work so hard to be okay. But as soon as we stop trying and trust we actually are okay, there's nothing we need to do. It just rises to the surface automatically. Because our natural default setting is peace of mind. We come into the world with that. That's who we are. And our thinking deceives us. It tricks us. In the same way, the alcoholic's thinking tells them the next drink is going to make them happy. Of course, it's not true. Then it says, oh, you're one away. You're one away. And the thinking really is well intended. It really wants us to be happy. It really believes we'll be happy if this happens and that happens. Which is why it works so hard to do that. It's really well intended. But what is ironic or perverse is the thinking itself that prevents us from having those things. If you're stressed about something, if you're worried what people think about you, it's the thinking itself that creates that fear. So we live in fear. But the thinking wants you to be okay. It thinks, if I can work out what they think about me now, if I can make sure they think good things about me, I'll be okay, I can relax. My well-being is dependent on what they think about me. But that thinking pattern itself creates the fear and insecurity. So what's perverse is the thinking itself creates the problem it's trying to fix. And when we just let go of that thinking, we automatically come back to the here and now and tune in to the deeper sense of self that has innate well-being. I'm okay. Now, you can't change your thinking. You can't fight your thinking. You can't argue your thinking. It's just too clever. You can't fight thought with thought. It's like affirmations. A lot of people ask me whether affirmations work. Well, sure enough, negative affirmations work, because most of my clients got negative affirmations going through their head, negative thinking going through their head. That sure works. So arguably you could say, well, positive affirmations should work. Well, technically they could, but you're fighting thought with thought. That's a dangerous game, and it makes it very hard work, which is why most people fail at it. So it's not what you're thinking that's the problem. It's the fact you're thinking. You have two guidance mechanisms, your thinking in your head or your sense of intuition and gut somewhere deeper within you. That's your innate well-being. That comes with peace of mind. It's about discerning where you are. You're being guided by your thinking or your wisdom, your feeling, your intuition. So it's about letting go of the stories. You can't stop thinking. No one can stop thinking. It's spontaneous. They come into our head. It's about no longer giving it the power you've been giving it. No longer giving it the airtime, the space, the credence. It's when you give it the power, that's when it creates your experience. So you can't stop thinking. It reminds me of, it's quite an old film now, called, I think, The Beautiful Mind, I think it is. It's about a brilliant mathematician that developed paranoid schizophrenia. He started seeing characters in his life. He thought they were real and started engaging with them. And that turned him mad. Went on for years. Then he had a moment of insight. One of the characters was a little girl. She never got older. He was getting older, it was going on, but she never got older. So they couldn't be real. So suddenly he realized these things can't be real. Doesn't matter how convincing they are, thinking can be very convincing, very plausible. It entices us because it thinks it can help us. That's why we get sucked into thinking. And these characters were enticing him, making them very believable. But as soon as he had this insight, these things aren't real. They didn't go away, but he could see them in a different light. He could see them for what they are, just thoughts. And he could ignore them. They tried to get his attention still, but he could just trust they're not real, and he could ignore them. They started to fade into the background of his awareness. They would be there at times, but he knew just to ignore them. And that's what like thinking is. You can't control your thinking, but you can just not give it the power. Not give it the airtime, not believe it. Just recognize what it is, just a thought, a habit from the past. And that's what thinking comes from. Often it comes from habits in the past. It may have served us once as a child before emotional intelligence was fully formed, but it's just become a thought habit. Now, for example, when I grew up, it's quite an unpredictable environment, and I never knew what kind of response I'd get from my mum. It's quite an intense environment, always thinking. I was overthinking about what would happen if, what happened when. So I grew up thinking I was a stressed person, thinking that's my personality type. But it's just a thought habit. When it comes to mind, I can now see it for what it is. A thought habit from when I was a child. It's nothing to do with my circumstances today. And that's what thinking is, just a habit from the past. And we let go of those stories and come back to this sense of my well-being is within me. You can need to relax on that roller coaster, because whatever happens, you'll be okay. And even the most extreme circumstances, you'll be okay. Your sense of well-being is not dependent on even paying the mortgage. Whatever happens, you'll be okay. Viktor Frankl was a psychologist who was in Auschwitz, and he studied the people in the concentration camps. He could understand how come some people survived that experience and other people didn't. How come people would have different experiences of the same circumstances? And he realized it was what they were thinking about it created their circumstances, created their feelings, created their experience of it. It was their thinking that created their experience. It was their thinking that enabled them to survive or not. And when some people let go of their thinking and held on to their core purpose of I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm okay. They never knew whether their family is still alive, but they had the sense they can't take that away from me. They can't take who I am away from me. And when they held on to that sense of core self, their instinct, their intuition, they survived. When they get caught up into the thinking and giving their power over to their thinking that I'm not going to survive this, or I have no control over this, he realized it was their thinking created their experience. They were all having the same circumstances, but all having a very different experience. So it's trusting whatever happens, you will be okay. You will be okay. We were told 1 in a million chance of ever getting pregnant naturally. Told only option would be ICSI, and that wasn't a high success rate for us. And it happened naturally. I love working with the doctors I work with. I work with many great gynecologists and doctors. But at the end of the day, your instinct is the most powerful doctor, life coach, nutritionist you can ever have. And it's about helping you find that peace of mind without giving up. And trusting your instinct within you. And yes, I have kind of hypnotherapy CDs and other things to help you quieten down your thinking. And they can be really powerful, because also the hypnotherapy CDs I create really harness that mind-body link using powerful hypnosis suggestions and visualization. But the main thing I really believe that can help you is understanding the nature of thought. Because we chase our thinking because we believe it's real. We don't understand the nature of it. A dog chases its tail because it doesn't understand the nature of a tail. As soon as it understands the tail is part of the dog, it stops chasing it. And as soon as we understand the nature of thought, and it's not real, and we let go of the stories in our head, and we come back to the here and now, we can begin to trust we are okay. We have everything we need within us. So I'm hoping that gives you a taste of the psychology of the mind that basically frees us from this roller coaster. And I think this is true. I've worked with many, many people, hundreds of women and couples over the years. And I can see this playing out, not just in fertility, in all areas of life, how we get caught into our thinking. And that's why I talk about Project You rather than Project Baby. Because what's going on, the thinking is not about necessarily about the fertility. You're applying that thinking to your fertility, but it's thinking habits you had even before you came into this journey often. It's about letting go of that thinking at the Project You level. And then Project Baby takes care of itself. And that's the ironic thing about this. When you let go of the stress and the story and you come back to the here and now, that's when miracles can happen in all areas of life. That's when business people can see their business take off. And that's when we can see our body and hormones and fertility really transform. So it's about recognizing our minds are very powerful things. We spend so much time working on our bodies, our nutrition, our health. What about looking after your mind? So spending time doing things like yoga and hypnosis CDs and other things like that can be very helpful. But your well-being is not dependent on them. Your well-being is not dependent on anything. I'm a big fan of, I sell hypnosis CDs, I create hypnosis CDs. But then I think for me are more about harnessing that mind-body link, using that power of visualization, using that power of hypnotic suggestion. And the real peace of mind comes from being free from your thinking. And CDs can do that, but we're really freezing that from all areas of your life. Is seeing what thought is, seeing that nature of thought, and trusting that well-being within you. So I hope that's given you a taste, and hopefully just tune in now and see how you feel now compared to maybe the beginning of this. And maybe you are starting to feel calmer and quieter. And just trust that feeling within and just be in that place. Take a nice big deep breath in and then let it go. Focusing on a breath is a wonderful way of coming back to the here and now, because your thinking causes all sorts of time traveling, but your body and your breath is in the here and now. So being aware of your breath can help you come back to the here and now. And a fabulous breathing technique I often share is you breathe 1 to 3, count 1 to 3 as you breathe it in, and 1 to 5 as you breathe out, and just repeat it. 1 to 3 in, and 1 to 5 out. Doesn't have to be a big deep breath. Doesn't have to be in through your nose, out through your mouth. You can even do this with your eyes open. No need to know you're doing it. And just counting 1 to 3 in and 1 to 5 out. Just very quickly brings you back to the here and now. And settles that busy mind. Questions come in. Do you know whether diet causes more anxiety or overthinking? I seem to get more anxious if I've had some sugar. I don't know whether it is guilt or sugar impact. One thing to say is I'm not a nutritionist, but I would say, sugar is like a drug, and it can give you this kind of energy high and then crash. And when you're tired, you are more prone to get caught into your thinking. So absolutely, I do believe diet can have an effect on your thinking. But also, in a sense of dieting itself, when we overthink about food, the best way to lose weight is not think about food. And trust your well-being. When you tune into the here and now, you tune back into your body. That's another thing. We come back to the here and now and trust that innate well-being within us. Because we're coming back to the here and now, we're tuning back into our body. You can have a dialogue with your body. You can reconnect to your body. Your body knows what you want, what it needs, what it wants. It naturally creates healthy food. That's what it wants, fuel. So I do believe thinking if I'll be okay if I eat this food or that food, yes, can just speed up your thinking. Because again, you're telling yourself I'm okay if I control my diet. But if you let go of all that worry about food and come back to your innate well-being within you, you'll tune in to what your body needs. Your instinct lets you know what your body needs. So I do, believe that thinking and overthinking about diet can just spin your thinking faster. Hopefully that's kind of helped on that. Another question has come in. I feel totally obsessed by pregnancy and feel I can't move on. It is a vicious circle of being hopeful, disappointed, upset, distressed, angry and jealous that other people are pregnant or having babies, which can then lead to feeling extremely guilty, and it starts all over again. Can hypnosis help? Yes, absolutely. Hypnosis is a very powerful tool to help quieten your thinking and find peace of mind, which is why in my hypnosis tracks I do include the visualizations to work on your body, but also some ones to find peace of mind. I do think, yeah, and people that have used it have very good reports on it. So I do believe, I'm a cognitive therapist, so I would believe that hypnosis can help. So I really do believe that. But also believe just understanding that sense of what thinking is can free you even more as well. So the short answer to your question is absolutely yes, I believe hypnosis can help quieten that thinking. Because that's what it's all about, just quieting your mind. And you do that by seeing what thought is. Another little story comes to mind is I remember being a kid and the playground and the roundabout, and there's a little ledge you could put your foot on, and you could push yourself around with the other foot and hold onto this bar and push yourself round and round and round and round and round. It got to the point when the roundabout was going around so quickly that I thought I was going to get thrown off. I thought I was going to fall off. I couldn't hold on much more. And it was in that moment I thought I was going to get thrown off. I thought that, I forgot that it was me setting the pace. I thought the roundabout was throwing me off. I couldn't keep up with the roundabout. But I forgot. You forget it's us setting the pace. It's our thinking that often sets the pace of life. It's our thinking that creates that experience of must analyze, getting obsessed, getting stressed. It's like driving a car at 3,000 RPM. The world comes at a very quick pace. And we're beginning to trust. It is trust, and you can let go of that thinking and you're going to be okay. When you trust that innate well-being within you, your mind starts to slow down. And you start to feel more in tune with your body. And you start to feel that peace of mind within you. Another question's coming. I'm starting IVF soon, and there's a strong emphasis on how the treatment is likely to cause serious mood swings and emotional upheavals. Is it possible to avoid this using the techniques you described, or is it inevitable as it's biological? That's a really good question about, is it the medication, is it the chemicals in the body causing the emotional upheaval? Yes, it will cause kind of changes to your hormones, which creates your experience. But in my experience, it's our thinking can exaggerate that. Our thinking can make it worse. And in fact, hypnosis can even it out. I often use hypnosis with people going through IVF to help them with that kind of, especially the down-reg and they're on that medication stage, to help their body just receive the medication in the most healthiest way, in the right balance for them. And it's like we're going to go through menopause, so change in hormones. You can use hypnosis to balance those hormones in a more healthy way, and that changes and takes away all those unhelpful symptoms. So it may be triggered by the chemicals, the medication, but yes, I believe hypnosis and just by being aware of your thinking in that moment can help dramatically let go of the physical symptoms. Because our thinking actually can and does, and there's studies that show this, create chemicals in our body. To the extent of placebo, if you give someone a placebo painkiller, your body creates painkilling chemicals just by them thinking they've taken a painkiller. So your thinking can affect your body, your biological chemicals, and find a more of an even keel. So it may be triggered by the chemicals, but I believe, yeah, your thinking can make it worse or better. So yes, I do believe this way of understanding the nature of minds can help you through that kind of process. And I think kind of hypnosis is a very powerful way as well of helping people through that process. So I'm a bit aware of time. I'm happy to continue if there's more questions. But yeah, so feel free to type any other questions if you've got any. If you need to go, that's fine. The recording's going to keep going. We'll send the recording out to everyone that's registered. I'm hoping that's touched you in some way to recognize actually There is hope to finding peace of mind. We're not subject to, like, we're not a ball in the pinball machine. We can find peace of mind regardless of what's happening around us, whether it's fertility related or not. And you do have this innate well-being within you. We're actually spiritual beings living in a physical world. And when we tune into the bigger part of us, our soul, our intuition, our instinct, that gives us this kind of peace of mind and grounding in the here and now, and trusting that whatever happens, you will be okay, because your well-being is not dependent on anything external. And just while anyone has other questions coming in, if you want to know more, or want to get in contact with me or find out more about me, feel free to contact me via my website. It's thefertilemind.net, and there's the Infertility Network UK.com if you want to find out more about Infertility Network UK and the support they provide. Happy for anyone to get in direct contact, because I know this isn't kind of this is quite maybe a unique way of seeing things, and it's not your typical just relax, because telling people just to relax just doesn't help. It's just thinking. So I understand this may, you may want to further dialogue on this. I'm very welcome to do that. And I'm just hoping you find it helpful. And please do, even in the chat box now, if you've got any comments on this evening, or email me, or email Infertility Network UK. Would love to know whether you found this helpful, this format, and there's all sorts of things we can cover. And we just want to know what you feel. We've got some great other material I'd like to maybe share with you. If you think it's helpful, we can do some more of these. I just find it's a good way of me of meeting my objective of changing the face of fertility support, but also supporting a charity I'm a big fan about, and just wish I knew about them on our journey. As I say, it can be very, very lonely. So please do let us know if you've got any comments. Put them in the chat box now if you want, or email me or Infertility UK. We'd really like to know whether this is helping you, and we can change things. Any particular subjects you want to cover, we can look at covering those. So please do give us some feedback. We'd love to know how we can best support you on your journey to peace of mind and well-being, and the real sense of yeah, you are okay. And that's where the miracles can happen and do happen. So thank you for listening, and please do let us know any comments, everything else. And as I say, contact me. Feel free to contact me direct via my website if you want. And I wish you well and send you lots of love and positive energy, and hopefully maybe we'll meet or speak at some point again in the future. Okay, thank you. Take care.